Charles Leclerc is running third at the Monaco Grand Prix when 3 of his 4 brakes stop working. The front left, fine. The front right, about half. Both rears doing almost nothing, as if the calipers had never been put on the car. He clips the barrier at the final corner, and his race is finished. The strange part is that his teammate had already solved this exact problem 3 races earlier. Lewis Hamilton finishes second on the very same afternoon. And the change Hamilton quietly made might explain why Ferrari's 2 drivers have not really been driving the same car for weeks. So how does one Ferrari end up on the podium while the other ends up in the wall on a weekend where, on paper, both cars are the same? The answer doesn't begin with the crash. It begins with a choice Hamilton made back in the spring. A choice so small at the time that almost nobody noticed. Coming into Monaco, Ferrari has reason to feel good. Monaco is the one track on the calendar where raw engine power matters least. There are no long straights to show off a power gap. What the track rewards instead is grip, trust over the curbs, and a driver willing to put the car within inches of the barrier lap after lap. For a Ferrari team that knows it is down on engine compared to Mercedes, Monte Carlo looks like a place to hide that weakness. The early signs back that up. The SF26 looks quick on Friday. Leclerc, at his home race, on the streets he grew up on, looks at ease right away. There is real hope inside the garage that this could be one of the strongest weekends of the year. Then the weekend starts to drift away from them. Up front, Kimi Antonelli is in a different class altogether. The 19-year-old takes pole, leads every single lap, sets the fastest lap, and builds a Grand Prix that is never in doubt at the front. Before the late chaos, his lead is close to 30 seconds. It is his 5th win in a row, and it makes him the youngest winner in Monaco history, breaking a record that had belonged to Hamilton since 2008. Behind Antonelli, the 2 Ferraris run second and third for long stretches. Hamilton in front, Leclerc behind. And it is in that second Ferrari that something is quietly going wrong. This isn't a brand new problem. It first showed up in Canada, where Leclerc's braking never felt settled. The problem isn't really about stopping power, it is about knowing what comes next. A racing driver brakes on feel, trusting that the car will do the same thing every time the pedal goes down. At Monaco, where the walls sit centimeters from the racing line, that trust is everything. The moment a driver can't guess what the car will do under braking, the lap time vanishes, because a moment of doubt is the one thing you cannot afford here. Through the early part of the race, the problem stays under control. The balance shifts around between the front and the rear. Every braking zone becomes a small guessing game, but as long as the race stays green, he can live with it. Not comfortable, bearable. Then the safety car comes out. Lance Stroll crashes at the final corner, the fast right-hander onto the start-finish straight, and the surface there is already breaking up. The field slows behind the safety car. And this is where Monaco's nature turns against Leclerc. Under a safety car, drivers fight to keep heat in their brakes and tyres. They weave, they speed up and brake, they do everything they can to hold temperature. But Monaco gives them almost nothing to work with. No long straights, low average speed, very few chances to build heat. That slow running is the moment everything falls apart. As soon as the safety car comes out, 3 of his 4 brakes stop working, and they never come back. This isn't a feeling, it is in the data. The front left is the only brake doing its job. The front right is at roughly half, and in the data, the 2 rear brakes are giving no stopping power at all. It is as if the calipers had never even been on the car. Think about that for a second. A Formula 1 car braking on basically 1.5 brakes, at the one track on Earth where there is no room for error. When the race goes back to green and the field speeds up toward that final corner, the car simply cannot do what he asks of it. He runs wide, touches the barrier, and that is the race. A red flag follows. In the minutes right after the crash, there is a tidy answer ready to go. Stroll had crashed at the exact same spot. The surface there was breaking up. The easy story is marbles, loose rubber, a slippery patch, a driver caught out at a corner that had already bitten someone else. The truth sitting inside the Ferrari garage is a completely different story. The track surface idea doesn't hold. Leclerc could run that same piece of track over and over before the crash without a problem. The corner didn't catch him out. The braking system did. And the way he puts it is what makes it land. When you look like an idiot for a mistake of your own, that's fine, you accept it. But this, in his words, was borderline dangerous. That is not the language of a driver covering for a mistake. That is a driver sure the fault was the car. Here is the detail that almost everyone missed at the time. While Leclerc has been wrestling with this all weekend, Hamilton has not. Because 3 races earlier, Hamilton changed something. Around the Japanese Grand Prix, after running them in private testing, Hamilton switched his SF26 over to brake discs made by a French company called Carbone Industry. If that name means nothing to you, that's the point. This is not a part fans talk about. Carbone Industries' main business is actually plain parts, and in Formula One they make a carbon brake disc with a very special feel. It bites hard the moment it is hot enough, and it hardly wears down, acting the same way for a whole run. That choice seemed small at the time. It wasn't. To understand why, you need to know how brakes actually work on these cars. Every team runs one main brake maker, and for years the biggest name has been Brembo. But the carbon disc and pad material can be different from maker to maker, and that material decides how the brake feels. Brembo's discs are known for being smooth and gradual, building pressure in a steady, easy way. Carbone Industries are known for that sharp first bite the moment they are hot. Two ways of doing it. Two completely different feels through the pedal. Hamilton spent more than 10 years braking on Carbone Industry discs at Mercedes. His whole style, the late, hard, fierce way he hits a braking zone, was built around them. So when he came to Ferrari and found a car set up around Brembo material, the brakes never quite spoke his language. Asking Ferrari for the Carbone Industry discs was, really, Hamilton asking for the brakes he had trusted his whole career. He got them around Japan, and by Canada he had made a real step forward with them. Leclerc went the other way. He had been on a full Brembo setup since long before Hamilton ever showed up, and he chose to keep working with it, chasing the steady feel he was used to. So what comes next is the part that still doesn't quite make sense, because here is the twist. The other package, Hamilton's package, was there for Leclerc at Monaco. He could have switched. He chose not to. His thinking actually makes sense. Monaco rewards what you already know more than any track on the calendar. Bringing in a brand new brake feel on the Thursday of the most exact, most punishing qualifying weekend of the year is really risky. The smallest change in how the pedal reacts can put you in a wall on these streets. So Leclerc stuck with what he knew, the package he understood, and bet that he could manage the problem for one weekend. The bet didn't pay off. Afterwards, his take is blunt. Hamilton went in a different direction a few races ago with a different brake material, and Leclerc will do exactly the same starting from the next race. The fix is already at the team. The answer is there. And the team's top people have looked at the data and agree with him. That single choice may turn out to be one of the most telling Ferrari moments of the season because it shows something the team had never really said out loud. For several races, their two drivers were not chasing the same fix. One moved first, the other has now decided to follow. If you find this kind of breakdown helpful, the deeper story behind the result, rather than just the result, subscribe. This channel digs into the parts of Formula One that the headlines skip over every week. Pull back for a second, because while the brake story has been playing out inside Ferrari's garage, there is a bigger picture. The split sits inside, and it is the one that should worry Ferrari most. Look at Hamilton's recent form. At Monaco, he finished ahead of Leclerc once more, and he has now pulled clear of his teammate in the standings. His second place ties Ayrton Senna's record of 8 Monaco podiums, and he does it while serving a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, on a track where passing is nearly impossible, and a penalty like that is normally the end of your result. He still comes home second. He is also honest about where Ferrari actually stands. After the race, he goes out of his way to praise the winner, calling the Mercedes an amazing car. In the cool-down room, the man with 105 career wins looks at the teenager who has just taken his 5th in a row and admits, with a grin, that the kid is catching him up. And the gap is just as plain in his honesty about the pace. Ferrari simply cannot match Mercedes yet, and he is the first to say so. That gap was clear all afternoon. Before the late safety cars, Antonelli's lead was huge. The Mercedes ran on a different level. Hamilton wasn't fighting for the win. He was getting the very most from a car that is not the fastest on the grid, and that is the part that matters, because trust usually comes before speed. When a driver makes a big change to how the car feels, the speed doesn't come overnight. First comes understanding, then comes trust, then comes steady lap time. Hamilton's run of results hints that this has already started for him. For Leclerc, Monaco showed the cost of staying put, and it wasn't only the brakes, even Ferrari's strategy seemed to show the strain. When both cars pitted under the safety car, Ferrari double-stacked them. Hamilton first to serve his penalty, Leclerc queued up right behind. Leclerc gets stuck behind his own teammate, frustrated on the radio, worried he will lose his spot on track. The real problem wasn't strategy at all. He didn't want to slow down too much in the pit lane because race control had warned drivers about exactly that. Ferrari stood by the double stack as the right call to keep from getting caught out by the safety car. But the story of Leclerc's whole weekend kept coming back to the same thing. Not strategy, not team orders. A car that would not act the way he expected. Now, before this becomes a clean, closed case, there is another side, and it is an important one. The picture looked complete the moment the brake failure was laid out. It isn't. The company that builds those brakes sees it very differently. Brembo has pushed back, calling it too soon to say for sure what went wrong before the data has been fully checked. And that is a fair point worth holding on to. The brake story is one version of what failed. It is detailed, it is clear, and Ferrari's bosses are said to back it. But until the car data is fully checked, the exact cause, whether it was the disc material, the cooling, a caliper, or something in how the system acted when it was cold, is not yet a settled, final answer. It is one read, backed by data, argued against by the people who make the parts. There is one more layer to all of this, and it is the layer the brake story can hide by accident. Even if Ferrari completely fixes Leclerc's braking, the team's biggest problem doesn't live in the brakes at all. It lives in the engine. Ferrari's 2026 engine is down on the top Mercedes engine by about 25 horsepower, and maybe more. That is the gap Monaco quietly hides, because Monaco doesn't ask much of an engine. Barcelona and the tracks after it will ask a lot more. There is some help on the way though. The 2026 rules include a catch-up rule for engine makers who fall behind, known as ADUO, Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities. It gives the makers who are behind extra room to work on their engines. With more help the further back you are. Ferrari gets 2 such upgrade chances, more than the leading engine got. So the way back is there. It just takes time, and it doesn't change anything this weekend. And there is a twist in the engine story too, because the rules around it just changed mid-season. From the 1st of June, a new way of measuring engine compression ratio came in, adding a hot test to the old cold one, and quietly closing a loophole that Mercedes had been using. The change was moved up from later in the year, which means Monaco was the very first race run under it. Mercedes still won, leading every lap from pole. Make of that what you will. So put the whole picture together. Ferrari has a brake problem that split its 2 drivers down the middle, an engine gap that no brake disc can solve, and a teammate battle where the 7-time champion has quietly found his feet while his teammate sits in the barrier. That is the spot Ferrari carries into Barcelona. From the next race, both drivers will finally be working from the same starting point. Leclerc on Hamilton's brake setup, both cars measured the same way for the first time in over a month. That alone won't close the gap to Mercedes. The car still needs more downforce, more pace overall, and that engine is still behind. But fixing the brakes could change everything about how Leclerc drives, because when a driver finally trusts the car under braking, every corner entry changes, every qualifying lap changes, every strategy choice opens back up. The real question isn't whether the brakes failed at Monaco. The data says they did, and the only argument is over exactly why. The real question is the one Barcelona is about to answer. If Hamilton was on the right path all along, and Leclerc spent 3 races on the wrong one, then how much of the gap between these 2 teammates was ever really about talent? And how much of it was just one quiet choice about a part most fans have never heard of? We find out the moment they hit the track in Spain. If you want that follow-up the second it lands, subscribe, and I'll see you in Barcelona.